The mall lights were still on. That was the first thing that made us stop. The power grid had been shut down in this part of the city for years, yet the glass doors of the Maplewood Galleria glowed faintly with life. Inside, something hummed, air conditioning, or maybe a generator. "Dude, this place should be dead," said Troy, his voice shaky but excited. He was always the first one to break locks and cross the line. Tonight was no different. "Dead malls, dead towns," I muttered, raising my camera. "That's the channel name. This is perfect." Mara adjusted her headlamp. "You hear that?" There was faint music, a mall playlist, looping something from the early 2000s. The sound drifted out through the cracked glass door like it had been playing the whole time we were gone. We went in. The air was cold, almost too cold. Every food court chair was still neatly tucked under tables. Trays, napkins, plastic forks untouched. And then there was the food. Troy laughed when he saw it. No way. Pizza slices under heat lamps, fries still crisp, a soda machine that hissed softly, lights blinking like it was waiting for a customer. I reached out and touched one of the cups. It was cold, not dusty, not stale, cold. "This is staged," Mara said, frowning. "Someone set this up." "Yeah?" I pointed at the overhead screen. A looping mall commercial played on it, grainy and sun-faded. A woman held shopping bags waving at the camera. Then a family at the food court, smiling, frozen in that same fake happiness. Then, right before the loop reset, the mother turned her head toward us. Her smile dropped. She looked straight through the lens. The screen blinked to black. We stood there, no one talking. The air vents rattled overhead. Troy forced a laugh, but it cracked halfway out. "Old feed glitch. Chill out." We walked deeper, passing a shoe store that still smelled faintly of rubber. I checked my watch. 1:07 a.m. We had been inside maybe 10 minutes. "Okay," Mara said, voice steady again. We split up, get footage of each wing, then meet back here. "Classic horror movie move," I said. "Yeah, but it gets views," Troy added, already walking off. I went toward the arcade section. The lights flickered. Machines still powered, the glass fronts showing smiling mascots frozen mid-animation. Coins gleamed in trays. A claw machine held a stuffed bear mid-drop, like someone had paused time. I hit record. Behind me, a whisper. It wasn't a word, just the sound of someone breathing too close. I spun around. Nothing, only the faint smell of grease and sweet soda. My camera screen glitched. A white flash. For a second, my reflection on the display wasn't mine. Older. Wrinkled. Then it returned to normal. When I met back at the food court, Troy wasn't there yet. Mara was pacing, checking her phone. "You seen him?" I asked. She shook her head. "No service here either. Not even GPS. Like the mall's off the grid completely." We waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then a noise from the hallway, sneakers scraping tile. Troy stumbled out of the dark, his face pale, his camera hung at his side. "You okay?" I asked. He looked up. His eyes were unfocused, red at the edges. His voice was weak. I don't know how long I've been in there." "What are you talking about? You were gone 15 minutes. He shook his head slowly. "No, it felt like hours. My legs hurt like I've been walking all night." Mara touched his arm and froze. "Your skin. It's cold." I turned on my flashlight. The beam caught his hand, the veins raised, the skin thin and spotted. His fingernails yellowed. It wasn't just exhaustion. He looked 50 years older. He saw it too when I pulled out the camera and showed him his reflection in the screen. He stared, breathing fast, backing away. No, that's not me." "That's not me." He turned and ran toward the entrance. We followed, shouting after him. But the main doors were gone. Only a blank white wall where the glass entrance had been. Behind us, the commercial screens flickered on again. The smiling families waved. Their eyes moved to follow us. The mall music got louder, distorted. A voice whispered between the static, "Stay, please stay. You look so happy here." Mara grabbed my arm, trembling. "We have to find another exit." We ran toward the escalators. Upstairs, lights flickered in patterns, almost pulsing. I could hear something behind the music now, a heartbeat that matched my own. When we reached the upper floor, every storefront was open. Inside each one stood mannequins, all dressed like shoppers. But their faces weren't blank, they had ours. Mara screamed first. I couldn't, I just stared. There were 3 mannequins in the front row. One looked like her, the second like Troy, the third like me. Every detail matched, down to the scratch on my camera strap. Their eyes weren't glass, they were wet, glistening, alive. Mara grabbed my arm. "We're leaving, now." We turned back toward the escalator. The lights above us buzzed, dimmed, and then turned a sick shade of red. The floor beneath our feet shifted, tiles cracking. A smell like burned plastic filled the air. The music stopped. Silence. Then a voice through the mall speakers, soft and polite. "Attention shoppers, the Maplewood Galleria will be closing in 5 minutes. Please make your way to the nearest exit." But there were no exits, only endless corridors that led back to the same food court. We ran through the hallways shouting Troy's name, no answer. The looping commercial screens flickered as we passed. This time the smiling families weren't waving anymore. They were standing still, staring at us with blank eyes. Then one of them moved. A man in a polo shirt from the ad stepped out of the screen. His face was stretched, pixelated. His mouth opened, but the voice that came out was static. Mara shoved me and screamed, "Run!" We sprinted down the corridor past the arcade. I heard footsteps behind us, uneven, dragging. I turned for a second. Dozens of them followed, all from the screens. Their movements glitching, skipping frames, their smiles frozen. We reached the maintenance hallway. The door had a faded exit sign. I slammed it open. Inside, a long concrete tunnel lit by flickering bulbs. The air was heavy and hot. I slammed the door shut behind us. The pounding on the other side started immediately. Mara leaned against the wall, gasping. "How the hell is this possible?" "I don't know. Maybe carbon monoxide, hallucination." "Stop." She grabbed my shoulders. "You saw Troy. That wasn't a hallucination." We stood there for a moment. I checked my watch again, 2:36 a.m. We had been inside for an hour, but my hands looked different now. The skin was thinner, my knuckles sharper, Mara noticed. Her lips parted. "You're aging too." Before I could answer, a metallic hum echoed down the tunnel. Something was moving toward us. We ran again. The tunnel seemed endless, turning corners that led back to itself. The humming grew louder. My lungs burned, my heart felt heavy. Then, a door ahead. A faint glow of daylight. Mara rushed forward and shoved it open. Cold air hit my face. Morning light. We stumbled outside into the overgrown parking lot. The sky was pale gray. I turned to make sure the door stayed open. It didn't. It was gone. Just concrete wall. Mara fell to her knees, sobbing. I looked at my reflection in a cracked car window. An old man stared back, deep lines across his face. White hair, same eyes but empty. I dropped the camera. The lens cracked. The red rec light kept blinking. Behind us, inside the mall, the lights flickered again. Through the reflection in the glass, I saw the food court. Me and Mara sitting at a table, smiling, eating, like nothing happened. Then the reflection blinked, and the figure stood up. They walked toward the glass from the inside. The camera caught the last frame before it died, their hands pressing against the window. Their faces smiling, wide and wrong. I don't remember driving home. I woke up this morning in my apartment, clothes still wet from the rain. My phone had new footage stored on it. I didn't film it. It's of the mall food court, bright, clean, open. Customers everywhere. In the middle of the frame, a man sits at a table with a young woman. He lifts a soda cup, laughing. It's me, but I'm smiling at the camera, and I don't blink. Then the screen flickers, and the voice returns, soft and cheerful. Attention shoppers, welcome back. The mall was supposed to be empty after 11 p.m. It never really was. I'd just started my night shifts at Westbridge Mall, a dying two-story place outside Cleveland. Most stores had gone out of business. Half the food court was dark, covered in dust and old soda cups. I was 23, trying to save money, working security with a guy named Carter. He took the upper floor. I patrolled the ground level. That night started quiet, too quiet. The air conditioning had that low hum that never stopped, and every sound echoed across the marble floor. I checked the time, 12:47 a.m. Then I saw it, the first one, a mannequin in front of Style Point clothing store. Except it wasn't standing like before. Earlier it had both hands down by its sides. Now one was raised like it was waving. I blinked. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe I was just tired. But I checked the security feed anyway on the tablet. Rewind. Stop. Frame by frame. In one frame, its hand was down. The next, it was up. I called Carter. "Hey, you ever see the mannequins move here?" He laughed. "What, like that old YouTube prank stuff?" "Yeah, just. Look at the Style Point window." "Copy that," he said. I could hear him chewing gum through the radio. I waited. A few minutes later, Carter radioed back. "You're right. That thing's not like before. Freaky as hell." Maybe the janitor bumped it. No janitors after midnight. Static filled the channel for a few seconds, then silence. Around 1:15, I started hearing something faint over the hum of the vents. Plastic scraping tile. Like a chair dragged across the floor. I followed it past the empty arcade toward Forever 9. Rows of mannequins filled the store. Male, female, all faceless, except they weren't really faceless. They had molded expressions, lips slightly parted, eyes too detailed, too human. Whoever made them went too far. I lifted my flashlight. The beam landed on one mannequin's face. It had a faint smile. The corners of its mouth curved in a way that looked aware. "Carter," I whispered into my radio. "You near the second floor escalators?" "Nothing." I checked the tablet again. The camera feed for the upper level was flickering. Carter's route showed his ID signal stopped near the old shoe store. I switched to the next camera. Movement. A mannequin, its head turning slowly toward the lens. The feed glitched, then froze. I swallowed hard. My throat was dry. "Carter, answer me." No response. I backed out of the store, keeping my light on the mannequins. Their glossy eyes seemed to follow me. One of them, female, in a red dress, was facing the mirror. When I turned back toward her, she was facing me. That's when the lights in the entire mall flickered. Once, twice. Then steady again. And every mannequin in sight had changed position. Some stood closer to the glass. Some had their heads tilted. A few had their mouths open. I ran. The security office was at the back near the loading dock. I locked the door behind me and pulled up the camera grid. The mannequins were everywhere now, clustered in groups along the corridors, like they were waiting. One feed caught my eye. Carter was on screen, standing near the escalator. His flashlight flickered in his hand. He looked straight into the camera. "Carter," I said through the mic, "you're alive, man? Talk to me." He didn't move. The feed glitched. His body twitched once like a frame skipped. Then another mannequin appeared beside him. Same height, same uniform. I leaned closer. My stomach dropped. It wasn't beside him. It was him. Carter's skin was pale, his eyes glossy like glass. His mouth locked in that faint plastic grin. Then he moved. Not like a person, more like something being repositioned by invisible hands. His head turned toward the camera. The feed cut to black. Something banged on the office door behind me. Once, twice. I reached for my baton. The banging stopped. Through the small glass panel in the door, I saw them. A dozen mannequins, all facing me, all smiling. One in the middle had Carter's uniform. My radio hissed. A voice came through, distorted and wrong. "You shouldn't have watched." The lights flickered again, and in the next flash the door was open. They were inside. The office lights stuttered, throwing their shapes in and out of shadow. Every time it blinked, they were closer. I backed up until my heel hit the desk. My flashlight rolled to the floor. Their faces gleamed like wet porcelain. Some smiled wide, some frowned. One had its lips parted, as if it was breathing. "Stay back," I yelled. My voice cracked. They froze. For half a second I thought it worked. Then all at once the light went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. I heard movement, plastic joints clicking. Something brushed my sleeve. I swung the baton, hit nothing but air. When the emergency lights finally kicked in, I was alone again. The mannequins were gone. The door stood open. The radio on the desk hissed softly. "Come upstairs," a voice said. "We need help with Carter." I froze. That voice, it sounded like me. "Who is this?" No answer, just static. Then faintly, "Come upstairs." I should have left. I should have run. But part of me needed to know. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped into the corridor. The mall was dead silent. The kind of silence that feels heavy. Mannequins lined the halls, facing the walls like they'd been punished. Their hands hung limp. The escalator wasn't moving, so I took the steps. Each one creaked under my boots. The upper floor smelled like melted plastic. At the top, I saw Carter's flashlight on the ground. The beam pointed at a store I hadn't noticed before. A handwritten sign above the gate said, "Mannequin sale, one night only." The gate was half open. I crouched and slid inside. The store looked new, but wrong. The mannequins were all arranged in lifelike poses. Some sat at fake dinner tables. Some leaned against walls like bored shoppers. And every single one of them had a human face. Not molded plastic. Real skin tone, real texture, stubble, freckles, pores. I felt sick. At the center stood one mannequin taller than the rest, wearing my security uniform. Its face was familiar. Brown eyes, faint scar over the eyebrow, mine. I stumbled backward. Something crunched under my boot. I looked down. A security badge. Carter's. Behind me a whisper. "You took his shift." I turned. One mannequin had moved. Its mouth twitched. "You're next." The lights in the store began to strobe. In the flickers they changed positions. Closer. Reaching out. The air smelled like paint, thinner and rot. I swung the flashlight wildly. The beam hit a camera mounted in the corner, still recording. The red light blinked. The mannequins were almost touching me now. Cold fingers brushed my arm. My breath came in gasps. Then one of them pressed something against my chest. A tag. I looked down. It read, "New Arrival 99." Before I could scream, hands wrapped around my face. Something wet and heavy slid over my skin. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The last thing I saw was my reflection in the store mirror. My mouth was smiling, wide, fixed. When the morning crew found the mall, everything was still. The cameras showed the mannequins back in their windows. Except one new display stood front and center. A security guard mannequin, same face as mine, same uniform, same frozen grin, and next to it a small sign, "Mannequin sale, continues tonight." The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not rot, not mold. Something metallic, sharp, like blood mixed with cold air. It's been 3 days since Ava disappeared. The cops said she probably ran off. But I knew my sister. She was stubborn, impulsive, but not stupid. She wouldn't vanish during a photo shoot in an abandoned mall at the edge of town. The mall had been closed since 2012, Greenview Center. Half the letters on the sign were missing. I parked outside at dusk, the cracked parking lot filled with weeds. My flashlight cut through the dust swirling in the entrance. Her car was still there. I found her camera under a toppled bench, the lens cracked. The last photo on the SD card showed her reflection in a store window. Behind her, a shape blurred in motion. I thought it was dust. Now I'm not so sure. The air inside was heavy and stale. My footsteps echoed across the tiles. I called out, "Ava?" My voice bounced off empty storefronts, returning hollow and slow, like the mall didn't want to let go of sound. Half the lights flickered from old emergency wiring. I passed Forever 21, its mannequins tilted and gray from dust. One of them had a wig identical to Ava's hair, blonde streaks, wavy. The eyes painted wrong, too focused. I felt watched. The escalator to the lower level was dead. A yellow sign read, "Maintenance Access Only." The tape was torn. Ava's tripod bag leaned against the rail. She'd gone down there. The steps creaked under my weight. Cold air hit my face as I reached the bottom. The smell grew stronger. The light here was faint but steady, humming. There shouldn't have been power. At the end of the hallway was a metal door. A single bulb glowed above it. On the handle, fresh fingerprints. Hers. I pushed it open. The space beyond didn't match any mall blueprint I'd seen. The corridor was new. Smooth white walls, clean floor. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. It looked like someone had built another floor underneath the mall. No dust, no debris, just that steady electric hum. I heard faint breathing, not mine. Hello, no answer. Only a low vibration, like a generator running deep underground. I followed the sound until the hall opened into what looked like another shopping wing. Stores lined both sides, their glass intact. Inside them, people. At least I thought they were. They stood perfectly still. Some I recognized. Mr. Rowan, the janitor from our school. Sophie from Ava's photo club. Even our old neighbor Mrs. Larkin, wearing the same blue coat she was buried in. They weren't mannequins. They looked too real. I stepped closer to one window. Sophie's eyes twitched, barely, like a glitch. Then her head tilted a few degrees behind my reflection, half a second delayed. My stomach dropped. Each figure moved with a lag, as if reality buffered for them. Limbs jerked slightly after motion, freezing mid-gesture. Like video lag. I whispered, "Ava, where the hell are you?" A voice behind me said, "You shouldn't be here." I turned. A man stood at the end of the corridor, mid-40s, bald, his clothes too clean for this place. His ID badge read, "Maintenance." "Sir, my sister's missing," I said. "She came down here." He shook his head. "Nobody comes down. Not anymore." "What is this place?" He didn't answer. His eyes darted toward the nearest store window. The figures inside began to twitch faster. Their movements synced, heads tilting toward us in uneven rhythm. "Run," he said quietly. I did. The lights dimmed as I ran past the glass fronts. I didn't look back, but I heard the faint scrape of movement behind the windows. The figures were following, pacing my steps with a delay. At the end of the hall, the metal door was gone. Only smooth wall. I slammed my fists against it. Nothing. The hum grew louder. It wasn't electricity anymore. It was breathing. I turned, panting. The man was gone. The corridor stretched longer than before, the shops warping slightly in the light. And in one of the windows, I saw her. Ava, her face pale, her eyes blank. She raised her hand to the glass. I ran toward her, shouting her name. When I got close, I saw it wasn't her. It was her reflection. Her mouth moved, but I heard my voice. "Don't go deeper." Then the reflection blinked, a frame too late. Something moved in the reflection's background, shapes gathering behind it, hundreds of frozen people shifting out of sync. I stumbled back. The reflection stepped forward, pressing its palm against the glass from the inside. And the glass rippled. It wasn't glass anymore. It was something breathing. The surface of the glass pulsed like skin. I stumbled back, flashlight trembling in my hand. Behind the reflection, the figures began to move in waves, their steps half a beat late, like echoes trying to match the rhythm of life. Then I saw my reflection smile. I wasn't smiling. "Stop," I whispered. My voice cracked. The reflection tilted its head. The same motion repeated a second later inside every shop window down the hall. Hundreds of faces mimicked me, one after another, delayed by a blink. I ran. My footsteps clattered against the tile. The corridor stretched longer with every stride. The ceiling lights flickered in a pattern, two at a time, chasing me forward. Every few seconds I caught glimpses of those glass fronts, rows of people inside moving with that unnatural delay. They were copying me. If I slowed, they slowed. If I turned my head, their heads followed, one store after another like a slow wave rolling through the hall. A door appeared ahead, heavy metal, rusted edges. I didn't care how. I slammed my shoulder into it and fell through. The room beyond was massive, empty. Fluorescent lights hummed above, steady now. In the center stood a circular pit covered with grates, a faint red glow coming from below. A camera tripod lay beside it. Ava's. I dropped to my knees and lifted it. The metal was warm, vibrating. A photo slipped out of the bag. It showed her standing in front of this same pit, her reflection warped like melted glass. Something moved beneath the grate. "Hello?" I called, though I hated myself for saying it. A sound rose from below, not a voice, a loop, like someone replaying a whisper again and again until it lost meaning. Then, through the distortion, I heard my sister's voice. "Help me." I gripped the grate and pulled. It didn't budge. The metal felt alive, throbbing in my palms. The red glow brightened, spilling shadows that stretched across the walls like reaching arms. Behind me, footsteps. I turned. The man from before stood in the doorway, his head tilted down, eyes unfocused. He moved wrong. Too smooth now, too late. His lips parted, but the words came from somewhere else like a recording slightly out of sync. "She's part of it." "What?" He stepped closer. The edges of his face flickered, like bad video. "This floor learns, it keeps what it copies. You shouldn't have looked at them. I just want my sister." He smiled, but it wasn't real. His mouth moved before the sound came. "You already found her." I backed toward the grate. "Stay away." He stopped, head twitching side to side. "They see through you now." Every light in the room went dark at once. The red glow below pulsed brighter, lighting his face from beneath. Then I realized it wasn't light, it was movement. Dozens of hands were pushing up through the grate, pale and twitching, reaching toward me in delayed rhythm. I screamed and ran for the door, but it wasn't there anymore, only another wall. The hum returned, louder than ever. The whole floor shook. The figures from the corridor began to appear again, one by one, filling the room, their faces blank, their eyes tracking me half a second too late. I turned in circles, heart pounding. There was nowhere left to go. Then, across the room, I saw her. Ava, standing by the grate, her clothes torn, eyes wide. "Ava," I shouted, "come here." She didn't move. Her lips trembled, but the voice came from somewhere else, delayed and broken. "You shouldn't have come." I took a step forward. She took a step back. Her body flickered. 2 frames. 3. Then she split her reflection, tearing itself loose from her body and stepping out. The reflection looked at me and smiled with my face. Every store window around the room rippled. Hundreds of copies of me stared from the glass, moving one heartbeat behind. I felt the pull. The floor under me softened, my reflection stretching toward me, hands pressing against the inside of the air. I turned to run, but my body didn't move. My reflection took one more step forward. I felt my breath stop. My body froze in place. My fingers twitched, then locked. The last thing I saw before the world went silent was my reflection reaching out from the glass, taking my place with perfect timing. Now I'm inside. I can see the hallway again. I can see the lights flicker. Someone's coming down the escalator. A flashlight beam cuts through the dark. Please, if you find this recording, don't come looking. There's always room for one more on the lower level.